All right, I will start. Thank you for coming to here to this amazing workshop. So I'm Xiaolong. Basically, I will talk about how to learn to operate humanoid robots. So before that, I do want to acknowledge a lot of helps from our cluster. So apparently, I use 200,000 GPU hours and then 2 million CPU core hours for the last 6 months. So we are doing a lot of reinforcement learning research. And I usually tell students to just if you want to do parameter search, you run 10 jobs and do the parameter search. So that's how it accumulates. So it's amazing that we get so much support from these log tutors and MRP. So I'm just going to show a part of the work we do using that many GPU and CPU hours. So basically, I was recently working on a lot of works in the space of humanoids.
I am not a licensed crossing guard.
Well, the audio doesn't work, so you barely hear a little bit from laptop, but it doesn't matter. So this is how the Disney picture humanoid would look like, right? So it's all very cute and then living with person in harmony. And that's like humanoids that we want to have, just living in people's lives and interact with people. So that's what Disney pictures. But nowadays in industry world, what we see humanoids is, for example, this is a company which raised like $700 million whatever investments doing this robot. So this is doing some manipulation task. So it's in a very industry setting. And then you have this people working on bipedal robots, focusing on legs, walking fast, and then walking everywhere. So I do feel like these are all great work, but then at the same time, we are kind of missing the part that how do humanoid robots live with us, how do humanoid robots interact with us. Not necessarily to be specifically focused on particular tasks, but more generalized to everywhere in our living in our lives. So to do that, I think an important aspect from the control aspect is something we study for whole body control. So it's not just use your hands to do things, not just running, but use your hands and legs together and then interact with human. And technical-wise, there are two more components that is important. Is perception. You need to observe how human act and you react. And then touch. Basically, we actually do a lot of things just without seeing because we can just use our touch sensing to feel about objects and then we do things. So these are basically the three subtopics I'm going to cover today. And most of them are using basically reinforcement learning to train the robot in simulation and then later do sim-to-real transfer to the real robot. So an example for the whole body control would be something like this. Basically, so this is outside the, so that is Jacob, right? So if you walk and then this is the road from Jacob to Price Center. So you want the robot to be able to interact using upper body with human and then move along with human at the same time. So that's what we call whole body control. And then perception-wise, basically, we do a lot of works in 3D perception. So this is more like an egocentric view of the things the robot perceives when it is moving. So I talk a little bit about this 3D perception work we do. And then in terms of touch, a very important component of a humanoid is basically its hands. So I spend a lot of time, if you look at my website, I maybe have 20 papers on hands. So to study on hands, specifically, I would like to talk about how to feel the objects using touch sensing without even seeing, but you can move the objects, rotate the object, manipulate the object by just feeling it using touch. Right, so the first work is also aligned with what the story I introduced in the beginning is how do we have a robot that basically is doing all sorts of things, not just for specific tasks, but learn to have like vivid, expressive motion, right? So when roboticists think about robot, basically we always think about this robot needs to do some tasks. This robot needs to be useful. But in this paper, I would say I mean, the technique eventually will be useful, but we try to do something that is not so useful. So we try to do some dancing and moving around, and then basically interact with humans. So try to explore this more like what we call is expressive whole body control. Want the robot to express itself. So so this comes better with music. So if you can listen to this. So this is a larger dancing movie we should. So it's doing imitation kind of thing. Oops. It's fine. It's okay. So it's not perfect. But it does survive for 30 seconds. So a lot of things to go, a long way to go. But we are doing something basically is able to mimic and imitate human motions. So you can. So this is I think it's in Sonala Beach. The important thing about doing robotics in San Diego is like you have to go to the beach, right? So what advantage do we have? Is the beach. So all the robotics work eventually when we shoot videos is going to along the beach, in the beach, and so that's what we do. This is kind of our lab. So we have a working space with 7 faculties. It's the Autonomy CRI Contextual Robotics Institute, where a lot of faculties also use the Nautilus cluster to do their work. So this is asking the robot to walk around to see if everyone is actually working. But the robot will not hit the student if they don't work. It's just waving. Right, a lot of students are not there, you can see. So this is kind of actually robot imitation learning or having very nice motions for robots. It's like everywhere in simulation, right? So if you play video games, you have PS4, PS5, anything video games, you already see all the robot animated characters are doing very, very nice motions and very, very sweet fighting motions in here. But then how is it never appear in the real robot, right? So this is the robot we are using. So this is the UD3 H1 robot. It costs around 100K, but if you get discount, you can get to 60K each. So this is a robot, but then the thing about this robot is it's a large robot, but then it still does not have that many degree of freedom. That's what we call. So the angles, very limited angles you can move. So that's actually a big limitation. For example, on the left, the robot there is maybe 60 to 70 degree of freedom. On the right is like 19 degree of freedom. So so if you can move this way, it's 1 degree of freedom. This way is another degree of freedom, for example. So you cannot really move that much. So that's why fundamentally I think it's very hard to actually make this simulation thing work in the real. So what we try in here is, so this is just comparison, like saying simulation characters has small degree of freedom than our real robot. Right, so the approach we try to do, I mean, we still try to mimic human, but then how do we do it if we have this limited degree of freedom? So we basically do some compromise. I think, and then in principle, it actually might be the right thing to do if we eventually want to do something useful. So essentially, we have human motions, and then we can basically convert it to, for example, robot motions. And then we basically have the upper body. Upper body is saying that the hands moves and head shakes, it should follow the human motion. But the lower body, basically the legs, we just say you can just walk as robust as possible. You just walk according to a particular velocity. You walk from or walk right, or given any velocity, you just walk as robust as possible. So it's kind of splitting upper body and lower body and use different kind of reward to do the learning. So that's how we get the thing compromised in the end, because we do try to mimic the whole body, basically a lower body and upper body all doing dance moves. But then it's just the lower body do not have enough degree of freedom. It's not really working when transferred to the real. Everything works beautifully in simulation, but then it doesn't transfer to the real. So that's we come up with this solution that upper body is doing imitation, doing all these moves. Lower body just keep stable and stable, walking stable. I mean, in principle, it's also it would eventually be something useful. So essentially, you do want the robot to just walk around your house more stable. You don't really care if it is like moving and dancing at the same time, right? So you give you a good mood, but it might not matter eventually. But then you do need the upper body, the arms to do manipulation, which is imitation learning would be important. Right, so we are using a large motion capture data set. So there's basically 800 motions. So on top actually is like human skeletons, and they would convert to robot motions, and then basically use these human motions and ask robot to follow the human motion and then transfer to the real world. So that's essentially, in a nutshell, what's happening here. And this is examples like in simulation. So this is like it's actually fighting. So you can see the little the green thing is basically what you want the robot to do. So it's giving the human motion. And then the red thing is actually what the robot actually do. So it's trying to keep tracking. It's learning a tracker, basically want the robot to track, do something to track the green dot. And this is transferred as well in simulation. So this is doing things like this in here. So that's one sim to real transfer. And when I say robust, it really means that when we are doing training, we are consider a lot of constraints that make the environment very difficult, but then the robot can still move smoothly in that environment. So that's what we call robust. And then, so this is outside, if you just come in. So this is just outside in front of the bear. And then we basically show that it's quite robust in terms of like human can keep pushing the robot, and then the robot can interact quite well without falling, basically. So this is, sorry, this students are very happy. So this is allowed to see in the beach. That's basically high five. And then we have a long, boring video here. So essentially, shooting a video on walking, actually in front of the library, the field. So this is showing basically we are able to learn to walk in different conditions. So not just moving upper body, but also robust walking in different conditions. So there's also in a more higher level perspective, right? So why do we want to do walking at all, right? So if you are opening a company, nowadays at least every faculties at my batch are doing robotic startup now. So if you talk to VC, and then VC would basically tell you, well, why do you want to do robot with legs? And then it's not practical, right? So you can just do it with wheels. I mean, it is true that using wheels are more practical. But then in the extreme case, if you want to walk on the hills and walk through the mountains, using legs will still be much more like robust if it works. And then eventually, I mean, we are actually in university, right? So we are not like a startup. So we don't care about earning a profit, at least in the short term. So making impossible possible is what we try to do. So it's like 0 to 1 is what we cares about. We don't care about making products that. So it's more like a long run research that hopefully we will not be to be a product now, but maybe in 5 years it go to people's family. So this is a video. And then I think I do want to show a thing that, because it's really just a shooting of how we do experiments. So I want to show in the end what happens, how do we finish our experiments. So that's something I want to show. So this guy is basically holding the robot. We are going back. And then we do have a frame. So the way we transfer the robot is basically, we just try to hang it. So you basically have this thing in here, and then you have this hanging up, and then you, right, and then you stop. So you just hang it and then move it. So that's usually how we do experiments. I mean, if the robot is not working yet, we usually also use this hanger together when we do experiments. But now it's working, so we just walk around by hanging it in the end. Important to have hangers. So we had different sizes of these hangers, and then in the lab. And then we went to GTC, which is like on Monday. So the robot is still in GTC. So this is when the robot is coming to the NVIDIA event, GTC. So it's entering the conference, and then it blends very well. We also wear the UCSD T-shirt, the hoodie, and then there's we have a show outside. So this is like dancing together with the band. So yeah. Right. So I mean, if you want to do robotics, you might just have some fun, right? So this is like really fun. And then I mean, it's also picturing. It doesn't have to be just finishing some tasks. So you're just having fun with people and then dancing around. So we also might collaborate with hot hands, for example. From the and then maybe in the next month we will have a play in here. The robot will appear in one scene. How humans and talk to robot and dance with your robot. So I think I personally have a lot of fun on this, and then running. So all this is actually doing like require a lot of techniques on reinforcement learning to support and do sim to real. But eventually, I think we had the luxury of like using the resources in here, doing fun projects that not useful now, but might eventually be useful. So this is the whole body control, and there are some detailed technical things. I think I still have 10 minutes. Basically, I want to go through. So we have works on basically not just like humanoid robots, but also so this is actually doing some types. So we have the leg robot, closure back robot as well. So it comes with our arm, and then we are doing some language, whatever, giving language, and then you do the actions according to the language instruction. So in this case, like you can move and you can grasp things. So all this is running autonomously. So and basically. We are proposing, I mean, I'm also from a computer vision background, by the way. So I do all computer vision work during my PhD, and then come to here, do a lot of robotics work. So this is more like a computer vision paper that we try to build a representation that contains 3D geometry for planning, semantics for answering the humans' instruction. I will skip some techniques in here, but basically try to show you. So we are proposing some representation that has unifying 3D geometry and semantics. And then the colorful maps in here represents basically the same color might represent the same semantic objects. We are trying to building the map in real time. So this is first-person view, this is top-down view. So we just keep building the map as we are moving, so we can grasp objects, place objects based on the mapping and doing navigation manipulation at the same time. So this is in FAH, and then right. So to see this in price center. So again, it's important to go out. So the student is pretending working there, but he's doing the experiment. So we have try to run as many scenes as possible in different places. And then you can see on the right, the map is building as it's walking. And it's a semantic map, so different color means different object semantics. So this is my student's car, I believe. So a different application, sort of. Like same student. Okay. Right, so this is this. Yeah, in terms of what the lab map is look like, so it's just building in first-person view and top-down view. So this is another example, I think. Yeah, a lot of examples. So it's nice that it builds in real time. So when the people suddenly appear in the front, he actually learns to avoid that person. So I would just on the bottom is little bit fast, and on top is a little bit slower. So he avoids the person and then get to the duck. We use the duck a lot to do the grasping. Right. So this is outside FH. So you can also ask the robot to avoid stepping on the grass as it's moving to the table. So because the map is semantic. And then finally, I like hands a lot. I do think that in future robotics, especially in humanoids, we are all going to use multi-finger hands, not just parallel gripper. I think in 1 or 2 years, will become very realistic. I mean, 2 years ago, people are still arguing, well, a parallel gripper is already quite useful, and then is applying everywhere. Why do you need a multi-finger hand? But I think right now, people gradually see that multi-finger hands are actually provide you more robust, stable grasping, and then give you a lot of flexibility in manipulating objects. And once it works, then everyone will try is building a hand. Now there might be like 10 startups building hands. So the thing we try to do in here specifically is actually just trying to do some in-hand manipulation. So this work is also funny from myself as a computer vision researcher. So this work is specifically to say not do vision. So this is saying, how about can I rotate and manipulate object in hand without seeing, just feeling about it? Just imagine something, close your eyes and then try to manipulate something. I mean, human is capable of doing that. And then can we enable robot to do that? So there's certainly a lot of studies on touch sensing. But one weird thing about the community of touch sensing is that they care too much about the details, right? So when they design a gel side is basically a soft skin kind of sensor. And then you press on it, it has deformation. The deformation tells you there's touch and what kind of things are being touched. But then is that necessary, right? And then it's always on the fingertip. Is it actually useful? So our work is kind of inspired by this glove, which is also from MIT, that they have the sensors, simple sensor all over the hand. So our philosophy basically is saying that even very simple sensors can be very useful if it is all over the hand. So our design here is basically on the left is real, on the right is simulation. So we still do the sim-to-real transfer. So you have all the sensors on the hand. So it's very cheap sensor. It's actually called FSR sensor. If you have computer, laptop, or using search now, it's $12 each on Amazon. And then basically you attach to your hand. It's giving you normal force, the pressure, basically. But then we even try to continue simplify it, basically make the sensing only 0 and 1. So why do we want to do that? So this is an example. Basically, you can have continuous signals on the left. Basically, you press it, you have continuous signal, or you can have 0 and 1. So why do we want 0 and 1? The goal is actually to do sim to real transfer. So all our things do, in our lab, a lot of things are nice in this direction. It's basically you train your policy using reinforcement learning in simulation, and then try to transfer the real. It has been a very, very long journey and for the tactile sensing community to build simulators for these soft sensors. It just doesn't work, doesn't transfer. When your tactile sensor is too complicated, it will not transfer. But for us, we basically try to do it extremely simple, just 0 and 1. So when it becomes 0 and 1, it's essentially just geometry. So basically, whether the things is collide to the other. So everything becomes just geometry. Then it's very, very simple. Then you can do sim to real transfer, and sim to real has no gap almost, because it's just really two mesh, two rigid body, whether they collide to each other. So these are some tactile signals that capture when you are doing the rotation. So it works pretty well when we transfer to the real object. And then this is basically rotating the object, also showing the tactile sensing. We close the light of the floor. Unfortunately, we don't have a mechanism to close one light. When we close it, the whole lab, 100 people cannot work. So we just shoot one video. So this is, we show basically we can rotate things in the dark. So have some good generalization ability to different objects. Again, we like our duck a lot. So this is another duck. And so it's an object that never seen in training time, but you can generalize to real and generalize to unseen objects. Rotating different angles, basically. So that's this work. So I think the underlying thing I want to convey is basically this thing is showing that we need to think about hardware design and learning together, essentially. As you are designing the hardware, you might, if you only think about hardware design, you often just do overthinking, like I need to make the hardware perfect. But then if you consider learning, then it actually is not necessary. You can just use learning to do the rest of things. You can have simple hardware, but use learning to do the rest of things. So I like this line of research a lot. I do think that the future robotics in the next 2-3 years will be a co-design of hardware and learning. So you need to have to think about learning component when you are designing the hardware. And this is essentially a lot of work has been going inside the lab. So that's a kind of conclusion of today's work. Basically, we talk about funny and beautiful backgrounds of like San Diego Beach. And then we have serious work on touch and computer vision. The building of a humanoid robot will be, I do think will be around this, a major focus will be around these 3 topics. And we will continue making the effort, and thank you for the support of all the computes in here. It's all done in UCSD and all the computes using Nautilus and MRP. Thank you.
All right, I think we have time for maybe just one or 2 questions.
Yes.
Yeah, Jeffrey Weekly, UC Santa Cruz. With the autonomous robot that's picking up cups and things, the little dog-like thing, have you explored the idea of using LLMs to transfer, to train or to use natural language to give commands?
Yeah.
And then transfer into the API of the robot?
Yeah, essentially, this is also something we are extending on. So in here is because we have a simple semantic map, we are just doing one step of action, basically just grasping and place on something. But then when you are doing more long horizon, multiple step of task, then we are actually exploring using LLM to break down your tasks into different subtasks and then follow different subtasks using this feature to do it. So one thing could be just a long horizon task, or even a more ambitious goals is like, can we like just clean up all the trash in campus. So that will break down to many subtasks, and that will require some planning from the large language model. So we do integrating this high-level planning into the current pipeline. But all the things I introduced today is more like a low-level skills. But that will be through like very smoothly integrate with all the large language model.
And just maybe a quick comment.
Right.
So a couple of weeks ago at Internet 2 Community Exchange, the keynote speaker was Kate Darling of MIT, and she talks about how people get attached to their robots. And you said something, the student is very happy because they got to dance with the robot. And I'm wondering, are you observing your students getting very attached to these robots? What happens when one falls over? Does everybody get sad?
I mean, not that yet, because our robot is not that pretty. So it's I mean, a lot of if you post on internet, there's actually a lot of offensive comments like this guy walks like Joe Biden or something. So there's a lot of I can see that. I mean, so that's one reason that we are actually trying to get a prettier robot. But eventually. I think it's still. I'm more worried about it creep people out than people falling in love with it actually at this point. So that's why we try to collaborate with Hot Hands as well, because like I try to search some way to understand what people are afraid of, like what creeps people out. So they are doing some experiments during the performance, like is this creepy, is that creepy? So that would be some interesting study for me. Yeah.
So, short question, Kees de Laat, University of Amsterdam. So, the creepy robot, the first one you showed, always had his knees bent. And you could see when people were walking into the NVIDIA conference, we humans normally have our knees straight and so on. So why can't the robot learn to
I think that's is the problem of algorithm. So we do realize, I mean, we also get a lot of these comments. So one is the knee bending. So it's just somehow current our reinforcement learning algorithm learn to, I mean, there's no specific constraint on the lower body on how it should look like. We just have a reward say it should be robust walking, and then it leads to bending. But then it is true that in some other works, people on concurrent work, they show more like straight knees, and then it works. But on other robots, so there's coupling hardware and reinforcement learning issues in here. So another thing maybe is actually related is basically you can see it keeps stepping all the time. So it doesn't really stand still. So that is also another major problem, because it's actually because our feet only have 1 degree of freedom, so you can only do this. So that if you have 2 degree of freedom, you have more stable. You be easier to stand. But if you have 1 degree of freedom, that constrains your motion a lot. You cannot stand still. So all these physical and hardware constraints actually making maybe the RL cannot learn to.
So I can propose you why he's in his knees.
Right?
Because as a surfer, you always are in your knees because it's much more stable.
Yeah.
And so when I'm on a surfboard, I never stand straight.
Right.
So maybe your robot learned something about stability.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's trained on a lot of different terrains and challenging terrains. So yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.